Okay, well, the topic tonight is chaos in the Greek way. And then also magic to the ancients in the Greek way. And I am going to be reading from a book called The Greek Way by Edith Hamilton. And she's not one of my most favorite authors, but I've actually read this book and it's pretty good. We're going to start on page 36. One of the earlier Greek philosophic sayings is that of Anaxagoras. All things were in chaos when mind arose and made order. In the ancient world, ruled by the irrational, by dreadful unknown powers, wherein man was utterly at the mercy of what he must not try to understand, the Greeks arose, and the rule of reason began. The fundamental fact about the Greek was that he had to use his mind. The ancient priests had said, "This far, no farther." We set limits to thought. The Greeks said, "All things are to be examined and called into question." There are no limits set to thought. It is an extraordinary fact that by the time we have actual documentary knowledge of the Greeks, there is not a trace to be found of that domination over the mind by the priests which played such a decisive part in the ancient world. The priest plays no real part in either the history or the literature of Greece. In the Iliad, he orders a captive taken back to appease an angry god and stop a pestilence, and is given a grudging obedience with the backing of the pestilence. But that is his sole purpose on the scene. The Trojan War is fought out by gods and men with no intermediaries. A prophet or two appears in the tragedies, but for evil oftener than for good. In the Agamemnon of Ulysses, 100 years before Plato, there is a criticism of the dark powers exercised by the ministers of religion, which goes with precision to the heart of the matter. And truly, what of good ever have prophets brought to men? Craft of many words, only through evil your message speaks. Seers bring terror, so to keep men afraid. The conclusion might be drawn from the words that something of that sort of power was in fact wielded then by priest and prophet, but what is certainly true is that the poet who spoke them to a great audience, with the most important priest sitting in the front row seats, won for himself not disapproval by the highest mark of favor the people could give. There is nothing clearer and nothing more astonishing than the strict limits the Greeks set to the power of the priests. Priests in numbers there were, and altars and temples, and at a time of public danger, disrespect shown to the forms of religion would arouse even in Athens superstition and popular fury. But the place of the priest in Greece was in the background. The temple was his, and the temple rites, and nothing else. The Greek kept his formal religion in one compartment and everything that really mattered to him in another. He never went to a priest for guidance or advice. Did he want to know how to bring up his children or what truth was? He went to Socrates, or to the great sophist Protagoras, or to a learned grammarian. The idea of consulting a priest would never have occurred to him. The priest could tell him the proper times and the proper forms for sacrifices. That was their business, and only that. In the laws written in Plato's old age, and on the whole in a spirit of reaction against his earlier revolts, the entire subject of religion is discussed without a single reference to a priest. The laws, it should perhaps be pointed out, is not written for the ideal state, the heavenly pattern of the republic, but is addressed to the ideas and feelings of the Greeks of that day. The Athenian, who is the chief speaker, often meets with criticism from the two other personages of the dialogue when he proposes an innovation, but they accept without a word of surprise or dissent. A statement that those who talk loosely about the gods and sacrifices and oracles should be admonished by members of the governing council. These are to converse with them touching the improvement of their soul's health. There is not a suggestion from any of the three that a priest might be of use here. Furthermore, before a man is prosecuted for impiety, the guardians of the law shall determine if the deed has been done in earnest or only from childish levity. It was clearly not the idea that in matters touching the life and liberty of a Greek citizen, the priest should have a voice. At the end of the argument, the priest's proper domain is briefly indicated. When a man is disposed to sacrifice, let him place his offerings in the hands of the priests and priestesses who have under their care the holy rite. That is the sum total of what the speakers hold to be the priest's part in religion, and he has no part in anything except religion. Even more noteworthy as illustrating the Greek point of view is the Athenians' characterization as monstrous natures of those who say they can conjure the dead and bribe the gods with sacrifices and prayers. In other words, those who used magic and tried to obtain favors from heaven by practices not unknown in the most civilized lands today. No doubt the oracles at Delphi notably played a prominent role in Greece, but none of the oracle sayings that have come down to us bear the familiar priestly stamp. Athens, seeking guidance from the Delphic priestess at the time of the Persian invasion, is not told to sacrifice hecatombs to the god and offer precious treasure to the oracle, but merely to defend herself from wooden walls, a piece of acute worldly wisdom, at least as interpreted by Themistocles. So, that's it. There you got chaos and you got magic.